Hey everybody, John here. This is my review of Willow, episode 6, The Prisoners of Skellen. I'm sure the title gave it away, but I am here to talk about it. You know, we are now only 2 episodes away from the end of the Willow series. I don't know if it's season 1 or just the Willow series. We will find out. But I am happy to talk about this episode because it really brings a lot of connectivity back to the original movie. There's been a lot of talk, flashbacks, alluding to Madmartigan, Val Kilmer's character from the original movie. And in this one, we get as close as we can possibly get because we hear the voice of Val Kilmer, of Madmartigan. Now, I wonder if they use the same technology that they used for the documentary Val, and if anyone saw that on Amazon. It's really good. It's a documentary about Val Kilmer's career and his life from his vantage point of today and dealing with the illnesses he's facing, his inability to really speak. And it was narrated by his son, who has a very similar sounding voice. Now, did his son do the dialogue for this? Did they do some sort of thing like they did with Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian? I'm not sure. We'll find out. But it was really cool hearing Madmartigan speaking to his daughter, Kit. And it also reminded me a lot of Ezra and the temptation in the World Between Worlds when he saw his family. And she's sort of going to his voice, and Elora and Jade were pulling her back, saying, like, there's something wrong here. And, you know, she has his sword, and we're thinking, like, are we about to see some sort of, like, CG version of Madmartigan or Val Kilmer in this thing? And it turned out not to be the case. And I think that was obviously some sort of dark red herring to lure Kit in. But that was a big highlight of that episode for me. But also, again, we are taking these characters a step forward, and we have Kit on this journey of first being unhappy with, you know, the arranged marriage out of the gate when we saw from the first episode. And then we see her obviously being bitter towards this obsession with Elora. And then she comes to the realization to find out that Elora is important when she sees her grow the tree out of the ground. And now it's sort of this situation where she's like almost calling Elora out. Like, if you're the one who's able to do these things, why can't you do them? Do them now. And I'm seeing that tension hopefully come to a head, because by the end of this episode, Kit is in real deep trouble. She's literally drowning, and she falls through the ice, and it gets glazed over. And there's Willow trying to do his best to cast spells to open it up, and it's not working. And of course, we have Elora walking backwards, and before we know it, she's standing right over the wand that she dropped earlier, and she picks it up. And yes, we don't know how this episode ends. I do, but for the sake of just this review of episode 6, we see Elora really starting to use her powers, and it looks like there's a good shot Kit's going to get out of there. So I think now we're going to see, going forward for these last 2 episodes, that relationship now between Elora and Kit becoming real and becoming one of care for one another. And we were building up to this point for a while, and they did a good job telling that story and those journeys with those characters. And then, you know, a lot of other stuff too. Christian Slater is in Willow. Now, I don't know if this is, I should have done research on this. I don't know if this is just a situation where Christian Slater's friends with John Kasdan or something like that, and he wanted to get him in this series. But we meet him the same way that we met Madmartigan in the movie Willow. He's in this sort of bird cage looking thing. And here we have on the other side of the aisle, Willow himself, with Warwick Davis, of course, and Kit trapped by the trolls in their own cage. And there was this big reveal moment where he's sort of laying on the ground, Christian Slater this is, and he says that he's Madmartigan. And obviously Kit sees this man. He says, that's obviously not my father. At first, I was a little like, what? They recasted him with Christian Slater? Like, you couldn't get somebody who even just sounded like him? Christian Slater obviously sounds like Jack Nicholson. Ever since he was a young actor in the 80s, I almost feel like he wanted to be Jack Nicholson, and he just stuck with him. Sort of like how that Austin Butler kid all of a sudden sounds like Elvis now in every interview. All right, pal. I'm not going to step on your blue suede shoes, but seeing Christian Slater was kind of cool, and then it turns out he's a friend of Madmartigan named Allagash, and he was one of the last people to fight with him, and Madmartigan pulled him back in after 2 decades to go on one last adventure, and obviously didn't end well for Madmartigan. But here's Allagash sort of helping them through this place and learning how to find their way out, find their way into certain areas. And then, of course, there is Borman and the thought that maybe he isn't the good guy. And I didn't believe that for a second. And I still don't think they're going to turn us that way. I think it's one of those things where it's he said, she said sort of thing, or he said in this instance. But I something about this episode, I feel like they took it a step up. The last one in the woods, Wildwood, little tamer in a lot of regard, and this one, the vibe of it felt a lot like Temple of Doom, because they go into this place that is very cavernous, not very civilized. Though I did find it funny that like the trolls, or whatever their official names are, what have you, these creatures who are imprisoning everyone, just have very normal sounding voices, and I got a real big kick out of that. I'm sure people are going to find a way to have a problem with it. I think it's great because you have these things, you expect them to sound like these, like a stereotypical monster or beast would, a humanoid beast would sound in a fantastical story, and they're just talking like they're sitting at a Starbucks. So I thought that was very funny. And then just the scenery and the scale and the scope of it. They're in a dark place, but it was well lit enough in terms of how they produced the show. But it looked a lot like the setting of Temple of Doom. I felt like I was right in that sort of vibe, and I thought it was well done, well made. And then, of course, we had the bookends. Eirk starting the episode. He's being coerced and whispered to by the crones. Thank you, subtitles, for telling me that. And it gets a little meta, but logical, because, you ever watch those horror movies or you ever watch a fantasy movie and someone does something really stupid and really cliche, and you're like, are you kidding me? What are you doing? And he just goes, spooky voice, scary city? Nope. And he does what the audience would typically tell somebody to do, and he gets out of there. The irony, though, at the end of the episode, he finds himself stumbling upon some formerly civilized place, and he drinks this dirty orange water, clearly just famished, thirsty beyond anything, long journey, and he hears this voice, and it's this woman, and she seems innocent enough, but she's behind bars, and she asks him if he's going to let her out. Did he put her in? No. Is he going to let her out? We're not sure. But I don't know. These types of situations in a series like this, I always get the feeling that you can't really trust that person. But he was looking at her in a certain way that was more beyond casual curiosity. So I'm curious to see what comes of that. Because I don't think Eirk and Elora are ending up together. Clearly, the prince and Elora have something going on. But so we'll see what that entails, where that goes. But yeah, big Temple of Doom vibes on this one. I like where we're going with all of the characters. I liked the settings and the sets and the feel. It felt like Willow. It felt cool. And Warwick Davis continues to bring it. And I know the series hasn't really struck with a lot of people. And I know in a lot of the reviews and stuff, we're getting comments like, oh, I can't believe you like this series. And I just think that sometimes people try to convince themselves that things are precious that really never were. Like, I don't think anybody really were diehard Willow fans. It's back now, so people are now revisiting their memories of having seen Willow 34 years ago. I rewatched Willow not that long ago, and it's very campy. It's very cheesy. It's for kids. It's fun. It's fantastical. It's silly. But it's a good story. It has a lot of heart and a lot of emotion. And I can put all those adjectives and attributes to this series as well. You can't look at this thing, which is set in a fantastical, different universe, if you will, but medieval feeling, and compare it to things like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, serious things like that. This is intentionally campy. It's pulpy. It's fantastical and can appeal to all ages. And that's exactly what they've done here. And I think Kasdan has done a great job of towing the line of honoring the continuity of that first movie, not taking it too seriously because Willow never did, and then also making it modern at the same time. So I've had a lot of fun with it. And I look forward to seeing how this thing rounds out, because I haven't seen the end of this series, so I'm curious what they have saved in store for us. So let me know in the comments what you think of this episode, what you think of my review, my thoughts on it, how my suggestions on maybe how people should approach this series. And hit me up on Twitter, of course, at Johnny Hoey, and you can find me on the Resistance broadcast. We're taking a little bit of a break, but we'll be back next Thursday live on January 5th to kick off 2023. But I hope you're enjoying our new channel, so make sure you are subscribed if you haven't yet. If we haven't hit it yet, we are close to 1,000 subscribers, so thank you to everybody who has joined us on this new venture. But hit the subscribe button and join us as we have more content like this coming out, other reactions, and of course all the same amount of Star Wars content we've been doing, and as always, our twice weekly episodes of the Resistance broadcast. And if you want more, hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com/Resistance broadcast. But more importantly than all that, I hope everyone had and is having safe and happy holidays. Happy New Year to everybody. And I'll see you next time right here on the Resistance broadcast. See you around, kids.